So good evening, everyone. It is Thursday, November 16th. This is the Hingham Historic Districts Commission meeting. Welcome, everyone. We have a lot on the agenda this evening. First up, I'd like to say that 6 Station Street, which is on the agenda, will be continued until perhaps January, maybe December, but I think January. They're currently meeting with one of the other boards, the planning board, zoning, and then they'll come back and see us again for some additional review. Other announcement I have is that we have a new member with us this evening, Justin Aborn. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us. Justin's been diligently reviewing all the materials and has attended the last couple meetings, so he's up to speed on what we're doing, and he's been a participating member of the audience already, so it's all good stuff. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Yeah. What are you currently doing right now, Justin? Just to kind of give us a little background.
I work for Abington Bank,
Yeah.
and I'm the information technology. I'm a senior vice president of information technology, and really the thing that I spend my time most thinking about is cybersecurity and keeping our bank's customers' information safe, keeping the hackers out of it, and it's scary. Have good passwords, keep your software up to date, and the bad guys are really out there.
Yeah.
It's very scary,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
but that's what I spend most of my time doing.
Thank you. Well, we're glad you're here, and I'm sure you'll be making some meaningful contributions from day one, so thanks. Okay, so first up, we have
Stephen.
a continuation. Stephen's here from the construction company that is working on 39 Fearing Road. You may recall this is a continuation from last time, and we actually took a look at some windows that were going to be installed with the bay window, and went through a lot of the specifics with it at that time. I don't know if there are any additional questions or something, Stephen, that you'd like to add that I know you weren't here last time, but
Right. So since your visit to the house, and we did go ahead and restore all the double-hung windows on the house. So those have been restored, and they're all functioning the way they should.
And these are 3 bay windows that we discussed last time. I think we even took a straw vote to see how people felt about it. Any additional discussion for this evening?
Just had one question for confirmation. The material of all the trim is wood, correct? There's no PVC? Okay.
That's correct.
I have a question that may be an omission of memory. But on the picture here, the center window, well, let me put it this way, that the proposed window is not the same as the center window on the bay that was here, and I just wondered if you could refresh my memory on why that is.
So you have a picture?
Yeah, I have it in my folder.
Yeah.
If it helps at all, I believe that what was discussed was that the central windows are, let's see, there were 2 fixed windows, and the center windows don't open their casements. Is that correct,
Yeah,
Stephen?
the center window does not open.
Okay. And you wanted the windows to open?
Yeah.
In fact, that's why the other 2 are being, because they're stationary. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Any questions?
Okay. Voting members tonight. Ben, you were here last time, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Could you be the 5th voting member
Sure.
on this application? Thank you. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, would someone like to make a motion for 39 Fearing Road to install 3 replacement windows, wood, true divided light, simulated divided light. Excuse me.
I'd like to make a motion for a certificate of appropriateness for 39 Fearing Road to remove existing windows in the bay window on the driveway side and replace with all wood SDL double hung windows, all trimmed to be wood, and change the cladding underneath the windows to the panel design as shown in the drawing dated 10/17, October 17th, from the architect.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Great, thanks for coming in again.
Thank you.
Let us know if you have any questions
All right.
as you go forward, but really appreciate all the restoration work you did on the rest of the
Thank you.
house. It's just, it looks great, and I know that
Appreciate it.
it's a win-win for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your help. Thanks.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yep.
about 5 minutes. Do you want
The
to,
letter?
yeah, do you want to take up the letter?
Okay,
Is that
sure.
all right?
All right, so, in your yellow packet is a letter, and this was an email that we sent out for comments earlier this week. Andrea's been doing a lot of work.
Actually, yesterday,
Yeah.
so I apologize for that, but thanks
Yep.
to Ronnie and Justin and Mike.
So this is a letter, I'm sure you're all familiar with it. It's going to go out to homeowners who live in historic districts, and we just want to send out a mailing. I know we periodically do that, but it's been it's been a little bit of time since we have communicated with the with homeowners specifically to talk a little about historic districts, why we have historic districts, who makes up the commission here, what the subjects, what is subject to review by the commission, basis, criteria, and the review process, and what if they want to make changes at home in the property, what do they do, and how can they make sure that their project will be approved. And we also talk about at the end of the letter, specific things related to the interiors of these buildings, and even though we don't have jurisdiction over their interiors, we certainly would like to be involved as much as we can if there's a renovation or restoration going on with your home, and we have specialists to contact regarding that for some expertise, opinions, and some guidance. So I know everybody's kind of gone through this, and we've put some edits out there that Andrea's reflected in the letter. Is there anything else I'm missing?
No, I don't think so. Let's see. I used all of Ronnie's edits, and they were mostly contained in why do we have historic districts, what is subject to commission review, the basis for the criteria, no. Changes to my home or property. And then Justin, thank you for, let me see, yours appears in why do we have historic districts, I think.
So,
Does that make, find it? I can't.
I think the letter is fine, and I like the letter.
Thank you.
So we'll just do a little bit of fine tuning with the print size, get a signature on here, and we'll get it out in short order to all the homeowners in the districts.
It may go out as early as Monday,
Yeah.
so.
So maybe Andrea, your phone will be lighting up on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Hope so. Just one more comment about the Historical Commission has a homeowner education program, And that is just purely voluntary. If you're interested in having someone who is well-versed in architectural history come to your house and point out what pieces of whatever is in the interior that might be significant, from the floors to hardware on the doors, glass, anything. It's, if you're interested in finding out more about your home, give me a call and I can set that up. So, thank you.
Any other changes, thoughts? Don't want to rush this.
I think it's a great letter.
Thank you. And thank you, Mike, for your comments as well.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we accept this draft and we mail this letter out early next week, as soon as possible. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Good. All right, 6:45, next up, we have Jason Roberts, 29 Pleasant Street. They would like to demolish an existing garage on the property and construct a new garage. It's a little bit larger in order to accept 2 cars and get some additional space there. So, you want to take it away? Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman? I'm gonna...
Okay, good.
So it's been a while. I think it's probably been 4 or 5 years since I've been here, so not sure exactly. Do you want me to just talk about in general what we're trying to accomplish? And okay. So the garage as it exists today, we like to think of as a 1.5 car garage. We can technically get both cars in, but to put the garbage in, you have to take a car out and then put the garbage in, then put the car back in. So it doesn't quite have the space to accommodate both cars. So that was, really the primary idea, was to widen it. And then when you start to do that, of course, you think about, what else might be useful. And we do have a workshop in back of the garage now that comes close to abutting to the pool area, and thought it would be helpful if we could put just a small half bath closer to the pool. In the summer now, we have people sort of trudging through the kitchen in their wet bathing suits, and to alleviate that. And those are the primary things. But, we do love the garage as it looks today. And as you can probably see from the drawings, the idea was to preserve as much as the aesthetic as possible without, really compromising much there, and only just moving its position and making it wider and a bit longer. So that's really primarily it. We did, try to be very careful with all the materials to, essentially replace in kind. The other thing I would note too is the doors as they stand today are not lockable, and that's a problem. We were actually we had a burglary a week ago, and we had some things stolen from the back. So with our one way or another, we do need to find a way to get the garage doors to lock. But as they stand today, they just slide. There's no knobs or handles or locks or anything really of that nature. So we do want to find a way, one way or another, to have lockable doors, and that would be, sort of an add-on benefit of the project.
I understand. Okay. Questions from the audience? Doesn't look like it. So let's open it up for discussion, if you're okay with that. Sure. Okay. Any initial questions?
Do you know when the original garage was built?
So we think around 1941. And that's just from a somewhat legible etching in the concrete.
I did go down to the assessor's office, and so I think they, in their records, and that's not to say it's correct in their records, they said 1900. And the dollhouse was a little bit later than that, 1920, according to their records. But if something's etched in the concrete, that might be.
But I can't in fairness, I can't tell exactly what it says, 19 something for sure.
Yeah.
And there's a number other than 0 following the 9, all right? So
Okay.
that's all I can really.
pictures?
There's the pictures that are in the booklet here.
But just from, old, like, from the, I don't know, 20s, 30s, 40s, anything that's,
We have a picture from much earlier than that, when there actually used to be a big barn in the back that's no longer there.
Okay.
But we don't have any older pictures that have this structure in it.
okay. Mike, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Have you given any thought to modifying the existing structure? How much would you have to modify the existing structure to get what you need? I mean, it's a nice little structure there you have on the property, so I'd hate to see it go. Is there any way that you'd be able to modify it to get what you need?
So, I mean, Alex is the architect that drew these. I'll ask for his help in answering that. We also like the structure, and this, doesn't reflect any sort of dislike for it. But the thought of, to widen it would seem like, to widen it and lengthen it would seem like we would have to at least remove the roof and the wall. Just given the limitations of the structure and how, its current size. So really open to advice on that. But it seems as if that would, be very similar in scope.
And so the current width of the garage is 20 feet, just over 20 feet? Is that a fair statement? Yeah. Well, it's a little tight for 2 cars.
Do you have some room on the property where you could possibly relocate it if you wanted to?
The garage?
Could it be a shed? Could it be something more than that, somewhere else on the property? We haven't been back there to take a look, but just
Yeah.
thinking out loud.
There's definitely room on the property. What exactly we would do with it, I guess just, so if you look on the second page, there's that whole open lot. Of course, that would take, kind of the open space away, which, we would be, open to discussing. I'm not sure how you guys would feel about that. I mean, that would be a lot of structure on the property if we would then have 3, assuming that there would be the new garage, the relocated old garage, and then the house. It may start to look like a, fairly cluttered lot. But I could certainly find uses for it if it were there.
Yeah. We have gone out and when there's a demolition, to take a look and just to make sure that we're doing the right thing. We've certainly done that in the past. Maybe we can chat about that as we go through the discussion here. Just kind of make sure everybody's on the same page and see how old it is, how it's built. Maybe it's beyond restoration. Maybe it's not salvageable. Maybe there really isn't any room. Maybe a component of it is. It could be like a little part of it on the property somehow. Maybe not.
So for what it's worth, we're in no hurry. So coming out and looking at it, that's perfectly fine. In fact, we would appreciate the advice.
It's a sweet structure, and I can also understand why you want to expand it. I think my concern would be, there seems to be a nice scope fit between the house and the garage, and wouldn't want the increase to have the outbuilding dominate the house in a way that the increases might just, I'm not looking at it from a measurement point of view, but just from a visual point of view, I wouldn't want what you plan to do to have the outbuilding dominate. And I think there could be a risk of that, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure how familiar you are with this property, but this picture is a little bit deceiving. As it shows the front facade of the house. That facade of the house, when you see it in perspective, grows back towards the south quite a bit. It's a very large house. And this view that's shown in the booklet is a little bit in a parallel perspective, so it doesn't give you any depth or anything else to scale the other structures on the
Right.
property too. So,
Yeah, my experience with it was one drive-by this afternoon.
okay.
It's interesting in that it's just being scaled up by a factor of, I don't know, like 25% or something, I'm guessing, from the pitches all staying the same. Garages that we've approved recently have been, 24, 25 feet in width. Some of them have been a little bit peakier, higher on the ridge line. But I think you've put this in a favorable position in that it's just, it's the same basic layout, only it's just being scaled up a little bit. I think that the board's probably just going to have to get comfortable with the demo part of it, but I think we can get that by coming out and seeing what you got out there and take a look at the interior. But certainly important to have something that locks up, that's usable for you. I get that.
Can I ask another question? Are you raising the head height inside of the current, of the new structure, or is it simply just a matter of the fact that once it becomes wider, you simply just scale everything up?
So that is one factor. Increasing the width does, just to keep things looking the same from the original, does make everything else increase a little bit too. The height of the ridge of the new structure was determined also by the framing requirements in order to span the new doors.
Okay.
That's shown a little bit in more detail in the framing plan, and that's why it's included.
Okay.
But those are the two main reasons.
Okay. Thank you.
A question in regard to that. Do you need that storage space above? Obviously, it's good to have, but if there was the ability to get rid of sort of that floor of that storage area, you might be able to bring the whole thing down a little bit. You'd lose a bunch of that storage up above, but you might be able to get a little closer, bring that ridge down.
So you mean if we eliminated the floor system and just
Right.
basically dropped the roof
Drop
that
the whole thing.
11 inches down?
Yeah. I mean, it's something to think about. I think it's hard to comment too much on the new structure without really getting to see the existing structure, but just to give you a sense of what we might be looking at if we get to that point.
Another question, I noticed there's a chimney on the existing structure, and there's no chimney plan for the proposed structure. What is the chimney serving in the current
I think
garage?
it used to serve something, it's connected to nothing now.
Okay.
My guess is there must have been some sort of a stove at one point before we owned the house.
There's also a mention of a proposed pavilion, and is that, I can't tell, the wood fence prohibits sight from the street on that? Is that-
For the most part. I think that the pavilion's a little higher. So not the roof part, but certainly most of the posts.
There is a view in the back of the pack that shows it's titled Pavilion Elevation, and it shows its relationship to the existing fence.
Shade pavilion? Okay. Okay. So it's not a structure, it's just it's open?
Yes.
Kind of like a pergola, thank you. Say cupola. Oh.
Its primary role is to keep all the leaves off of the pool deck and the couches. It's a tree, a really big tree that isn't shown in the drawing that seems to shed all year long.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I really like the fact that it very much keeps what is there currently. But with the increased size, I think it would be good to do a site visit.
Okay.
Yep.
Jason, is the fence going to be new?
Nope, it's there.
It's there now?
Yeah.
Same height, same everything? Yeah, okay. Okay.
And the driveway is being extended because the new proposed garage is going to be set back there?
Yes.
Is that true?
That's true.
And it's just going to be a continuation of the existing driveway, just some materials?
Yes.
If you look at the site plan on the first couple of pages, I believe it will have to move to the left on the page slightly, only to accommodate the new setbacks from the lot line to the right.
Okay.
What kind of shape are the windows in? Do you think you could restore those, or you think you could move them to the new building?
From my opinion, it would require me to go back and take a closer look. On the first few times that I was there, I thought the windows looked like they were in pretty rough shape. Jamie able to speak.
Yeah. They don't stay shut, so must be some warping in there somewhere. They don't have locks. But
Okay.
when you shut them, you go back in a couple of days and they've opened in both directions. So, of course, there could be a lot of things causing that, but they're certainly not in tip-top shape.
Okay, we can take a look at those too.
And I don't know that they're insulated either in any way, and there's no storm. And that may factor in the fact that there's some space in the back rows. There would be some, I wouldn't call it living area per se, and you can sleep there.
Do you want to insulate the back? Is that the plan?
Ideally.
One more point about the windows. Reusing the existing windows may play a role in the proportions of the windows to the larger building.
Okay.
As you can see in the side elevations, the new windows, even being larger, leave space between the top of the window and the soffit of the building. And that distance would increase if we used the same smaller windows.
Okay. We'll take a look at the windows and get some measurements and see what kind of shape they're in and we come out. You want to do the same color, same roofing material? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, with the Thanksgiving holiday coming up, it probably would be, let me look at my calendar here. Our next meeting is on the 14th of December. And so we would want to do that probably either on the December 2nd or the 9th. So I don't know if that right off rings any bells with anybody in terms of conflicts.
I believe I can do either day, 2nd and the 9th.
I can check, I'll just send out an email and you can let me know. But would that be acceptable to you?
Yeah, those are both Saturdays.
Okay.
Yeah, they would be fine.
Like 9 o'clock? 9 o'clock in the morning, somewhere around there? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Mornings are okay?
Yeah.
We want to see what the which height would be as it relates to the current house, just I'm not looking to have a whole structure built, just one post. That would be the 18 point. What's the new height?
So you're asking for a story pole for the...
Just one
just
story pole,
to-
maybe, to indicate the current height or the new height of 18.7? Up against the, would that mean anything?
Would that be helpful?
It's 4 feet difference. Just not the whole ridge, just one pole coming up, indicating what that would be in difference.
Okay.
Would that be possible?
Just kind of hammer it right into the
Yep.
peak there. And then,
Or even just have it there, and then somebody could hold it, and then you can put it down, you don't have to.
Sure.
Because I'm not looking for the whole ridge height, I'm just looking for...
Yeah, no, I get
Division.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure out how to do it.
Okay.
and then maybe if you wanted to just stake out 5 additional feet towards the house, I think that's kind of how it's going to lay out, correct?
Okay.
That front corner and, the rear corner, just maybe the new outline, that would be good.
So the proposed building is to move
Yeah.
closer to the house. Would you want the
Yeah.
stakes to outline
Yeah.
the new perimeter of the building? Okay.
I think it'd be good, just to get a relationship that was asked for regarding the new structure to the big house, kind of how they're going to relate to one another. Good. Anything else that would be helpful? Ben's on here, okay. All right. Awesome.
Great, thank
So
you.
Chief and I will give you a call, and you or Chrissy, and set up by either 9 o'clock on either one of those Saturday mornings.
Sure.
Okay?
So you think
Thank
this is
you.
a spring
Thank you,
project for you, or?
We honestly don't know.
Okay.
I mean, probably if,
Okay,
we get to that point, but
okay. All
it's
right,
not, yeah. All right,
gotcha.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you again. Thank you. Okay. Moving right along, we have the North Street Church for the installation of remote radio units in the Spire. The plan is to remove some of the existing structure and replace with some fiberglass. Thanks for coming in.
Sure.
How you doing?
My name is Mark Cohen. I'm with Network Building Consulting. We're the site acquisition, zoning, permitting, and construction consultants for T-Mobile at this site. This is my colleague, Mike Willengavich. Mike is a construction manager. I'm sure you'll have questions in that vein that you can pose, and hopefully he'll be able to answer them. So essentially, let me give you an overview of what we're trying to do here, what the project is. In the last few years, T-Mobile's been undertaking a project which we call L700. L is just short for LTE. It's a wireless technology you may have heard of. If you have LTE on your phone, you get faster service. And the other thing that's driving this, as it does everywhere, is the explosion in data usage. We need to increase our capacity as opposed to coverage, like where the signal travels to. So what this project will do will enhance both coverage and capacity. At present, as you can see on the drawings, we have 8 antennas in the belfry, and we need to add 4 more, which we're proposing to do within the Spire. Originally, we had hoped to only have to replace about the lower 7 feet of the Spire, and the engineer conveyed that information to me. He was pretty confident it would be okay, and then lo and behold, I think it was about a week ago, he informed us that it wouldn't work because of the framing members inside the Spire. The antennas would be pointing at those and therefore blocking the signals at approximately, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
The way antennas work, it's line of sight. So if you can imagine my face was a lantern, and you put a couple pieces of wood in front of it, obviously there's only so much light that can shine through. Well, antennas work the same way. It's all going to be shooting out. If it's blocking the signal, then you're not going to be hitting enough capacity and the client's out of around 360-degree radius.
Right. So there's framing timbers inside the spire that pretty much run the length, and they would be in the way of this thing. So the byword is wood is not good. What we do use is fiber reinforced plastic, otherwise known as fiberglass. These are just a couple of samples. I'm not saying that the sheeting would look like this, but just to show you that, I think from a distance, and I can pass this around if you want to, get close to it and touch it. Honestly, that I'm standing here, those look like ordinary shingles to me, so here's another smaller set.
The other problem is existing metal inside the woodwork.
And I also have, because the end product is going to look just like what we have there now, and there's many, many successful Spire replacements. Unfortunately, my copier crapped out. I wasn't able to make enough for all of you, but here's a package with some Spires. This one happens to be across the street from me, and it's a T-Mobile project. I actually watched it built, and I'm familiar with the old Spire, and I can tell you, I can't tell the difference. So, and then there's some others in here. I don't know what church this is, but these are all T-Mobile projects. So I've got a couple of sets of plans here.
In the photographs you've got today, is this the sort of material that is used
The antennas
in
are
the belfry?
behind now obviously not behind the opening, but in the corners there.
In the corners, and that is currently wood?
That's FRP.
That's this material?
That material, correct. It has to be, yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of it in a nutshell. If you have, questions, whatever, we're here to answer them.
Any questions from the audience? Okay, let's open it up. Can I ask a couple just basic questions here?
Sure.
So this construction and this installation is going to benefit, who's going to be the primary users of this? Who's going to be getting the benefit of this?
Anybody that's in the area, residents, and the commuter train runs past there. I've been to the site. There's a couple of small retailers. Anybody that has a T-Mobile service.
Up to a 3-mile radius.
Okay, so the application is being driven by who? Who's driving this? Is it the church? Is it you? Who is?
Well, it's T-Mobile. Like I said, the company that Mike and I work for is Network Building Consulting. Okay? We're essentially their agent. Okay. But this T-Mobile has this program, the L700 that I described to you, and they're redoing virtually, I shouldn't say redoing, but enhancing all other sites, including this one. Okay. So it's not like we're singling this site out for different treatment than we're doing in the remainder of the network.
It's just for just a quick moment.
Sure.
It's actually anybody who lives in 3-mile radius. If anybody who has T-Mobile service is calling, complaining that, hey, I have a pretty good signal in my house, but I keep dropping calls, well, that means your capacity is reached. You ever notice you have a full signal, all of a sudden got bumped off a phone call? Well, everybody, all the school children now have cell phones. Everybody who's downloading videos eats up what they call bandwidth.
Yeah.
So now they had to get more bandwidth to be able to transfer, calls and data. So,
is there a benefit to the church and the congregation of putting this in? Is there a revenue stream to that?
Oh, yeah. We have a lease with them.
Okay.
We've been paying monthly rent on that lease. In fact, to accommodate these antennas, I negotiated a lease amendment with a rent increase for them.
Okay.
They're going to get more rent because of these antennas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andrew, I just have a question, just the history of these. Is this typically the process and what's been going on with churches in Hingham for the installation, where this has been kind of a lease type of arrangement?
Absolutely.
And this has been the benefit of not just the congregation in the immediate area, but it's the surrounding homes, people in the community are getting better access.
That is correct.
That's what's driving
That
this.
is correct.
Okay. And just one more question for me. Is there any other I guess you need something high, something elevated, that's in the area of the North Church that you've considered that as an option, or is this it?
Well, the antennas have to be together with the existing site. So, I mean, originally, I don't have the history of it personally. What T-Mobile does, they issue what they call a search ring, and they say, we need a cell site somewhere in this area. Okay, so however many years ago, it was prior to when this lease commenced, which I don't have in my head, I could look it up. They sent us out or they sent a consultant like NBNC out, and they go and find, ideally, existing tall structures. Now, I've been in this business long enough that I could tell you probably there aren't a heck of a lot of tall structures. Why we ended up with a church, it gives us some height. It's not tremendous. I mean, there are a lot of cell sites that are perched 100 feet above the ground and more, but this was probably the best we could find in the area, and it was considered good enough that we went ahead and leased it and got it permitted and installed, and now we're been operating the site.
And the reason I'm asking this line of question is we've had some installations before, but I don't know if we've actually had a steeple come off and reconfigured in such a fashion where it wasn't workable with what's currently there. So that's kind of my line of question where I'm going with all this, because this is a little bit more, I'm going to use the word invasive, than what we've approved in the past.
Yeah. I mean, church installations, and Mike can speak to this, they're tricky. Okay, I mean, it's not like going on a communications tower where you have a big, mounting structure and pipes that you attach the antennas to. You're constrained, by space, and in particular, here where a historic structure and historic district, we know we have to remain inside, and you can't have the antennas visible from the outside. So there are constraints, but they can be worked around by doing something like that we're proposing.
Okay.
But it would be correct to say, it would be correct to say that the alternatives that might be exposed antennas might be more visible and more unsightly to the town.
We wouldn't even, at this site, there's, if we went somewhere else, if there is somewhere else to go, it might be a structure that the antennas would have to be visible, so.
And at this location, does this cover the downtown Hingham Square area as well? I'm not sure what the mileage is. I think you mentioned
you know
it's like
what,
3
I
miles.
don't have, I've not seen RF maps. We usually generate those for a new site to show the need for the site.
Okay.
If it's already covering that area, it would get better coverage now with the additional antennas. So. I mean, if it's within a mile or two, for sure it would be.
It looks like it.
It's pretty close.
I mean, I don't.
Is that maybe did I drive through there on the way here maybe, and I came from that?
You would have come.
Christmas tree?
I came from that direction, and then I made a left. Would I have driven through?
I
Is that what
think
you're
you
talking
may
about?
very well.
The little downtown area?
Yeah, I
Is that what
think
you're
it's
talking
hard to, well, Hingham Square is, if you went through a downtown area, I think you probably went through Hingham Square.
Yeah, it seems like it would have been close enough to pick up coverage there, I would say.
I feel pretty confident that definitely downtown would benefit from it.
Yeah.
Once again, it's all about capacity. Downtown's probably eating up most of the capacity with everybody hanging out down there at the restaurants, and I know the train station's below ground, but still, people sitting in traffic, what do they do when they're bored? They're looking at their phones, or they're using their phones for MapQuest. That's eating up capacity.
Right, it's all about the data, and it's just increasing by leaps and bounds every year.
And it's all the carriers that's going to be, all the carriers having problems with capacity.
Yeah.
I never, 10 years ago, whoever heard of text messaging and data downloading and, 4-year-olds running around the playground with a cell phone.
Not that that's a good thing, we're not making value judgments about it, but I mean, it's the reality. I mean, it's ubiquitous, so I mean, we're working to satisfy the needs.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask, Jeremy, what, do you recall how much of the steeple was replaced
The lighting strip?
in 2008? Yeah.
With the installation, you mean?
Yes, with the installation.
Just the 4 corners of the belfry.
Mm-hmm.
So, in terms of this installation, there will be no additional equipment that will be seen from the public way, it's all inside.
All inside,
And
right,
what you're
exactly.
proposing is to replace the entire spire
Correct.
and reclad it with something of this nature,
Where are my boards? Oh, over there, yeah, yeah.
but nothing below this line.
You know what? Let me just, because we had those RRUs.
The drawings are,
Yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at is it'd be good to see a drawing that shows a little more detail of exactly what is going to be replaced and how it's going to be replaced in terms of details of matching the
Yeah,
existing.
there's actually companies out there, like Yankee Steeple, American Steeple, that strictly just makes domes and steeples.
Yep.
And they show up with a crane and pop one off, put the other one on.
We have RRUs kind of at the base where I'll call it a flange. I know
Yeah,
it's not the
it will be
right
covered.
term. It would be inside.
Yeah,
Again,
the
that's what
base-
the dashed lines mean, inside and not visible on the C2 drawing, the elevation.
Right, but it's not clear as to what portions of this is being replaced with fiberglass or some other material.
First of all,
And do you know-
see here, let me read this.
Yeah.
What I've been told, if I can chip in, is that it's just from the top of the belfry. Oh, sorry. But what we've been told is it's just from the belfry up.
I believe he's right.
Yeah.
Proposed fiberglass siding to replace existing siding in permanent tennis locations determined.
So like with this flange, this little flange here or whatever, that's not the right terminology, so from there up.
Yes.
Right.
And I know there's, at the base of the spire, there's definitely some type of, looks like from the ground level, PVC, or it could be the same material as this, almost looks like beadboard or enclosing it all, so you're not going to see it in there. The other photos,
These? You mean the inside?
outside.
The outside, oh, no.
When
So you're on your
you talked
phone.
about the lightning strike, what was, had to be replaced?
In my recollection, so this was 2000, just before I became pastor, actually, so December 2005. All of the siding had to be, and some of the, whatever's behind the siding would, I don't even know what it would be holding the siding, but some of that. So none of the structural stuff, but all the stuff on the outside. Yeah.
What's the condition now? I mean, is there any rot up there? Is there any?
Well, I haven't been up there, but to my knowledge, it's, I mean, so we've had steeplejacks up there as recently as 12 years ago, and they took full account at that point, so I don't know, but it seems to be fine and great. I will say, I believe, and Andrew, you may correct me, I'm not sure how long you've been in the position, but there is some precedence with a change of structure with New North. Now, I'm not even sure New North has antenna anymore, but the needle, or whatever you would call it, on top was an addition with...
That is correct.
With the, so, and this wouldn't even come close to that. This is just, it'll look the same after, but it will require replacing of the whole steeple. I mean, the spire.
Have we done anything with composites on steeples?
We did.
Yeah, we did, go ahead.
Congregational Church, I think it was John Hall? John Hall, do I have the name right? John came in right before the major renovation over at the Congregational Church, and they wanted to replace it with PVC because it kept rotting, the strips. I'm using the correct terminology, but it was on the spire.
Yeah, do you remember the extent of the,
It was all of the strips.
Yeah, all of the strips on the spire.
Yeah, that is correct.
And to be clear, unfortunately, what we have on right now is vinyl. It's not wood. The whole building. That was before me, just to say.
good to know? Okay.
And could I question this? So this is a photograph of the existing structure. To what extent is it true to say that it would look exactly the same? Or is the profile of the steeple changing at all?
They will do a great job of duplicating that.
But I'm just thinking in terms of size and height and diameter.
It's going to be almost identical, and the reason why I say that is, okay, if it's slightly off, it's going to be slightly off, meaning, are we talking less than an inch? Not sure, let's have them come and do a design, but they will also try to match the existing texture, color, everything.
question. If it gets replaced, would the existing GPS antenna be able to be moved inside? Or does that have to be on the outside the way it is now?
Well, actually, it's probably on the outside because of the structure, the way it is right now. So I bet now going to the new materials, then you can hide that on the inside. Yeah, I agree. It's not very good looking.
Right,
to see
yeah.
the way it is, but.
Yeah. Again, it needs to, receive the signal, then the wood is not suitable, so.
Right.
So potentially it could be moved in.
So may I just ask, just to be clear, this is a very, very unique design on this steeple. And so, will it be replicated precisely?
Yes, I mean, I gave you that.
Oh, this one isn't? No. Oh,
That's an
that's the other one?
That's an example. No.
Oh, thank God.
Right.
I was gonna say, that's pretty tough then.
Yeah. No, my point was that it looks, obviously I don't have a picture of the original material, but I live across the street from them, that's how I know.
Oh, this one?
The one on, right. And
Okay,
I
good.
cannot tell the difference between the original and that.
I can show you what is there right now.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's all.
That's okay. That is,
That's vinyl.
okay, so that's this one.
No, this is actually the actual church.
This is New North?
That is correct.
Ah, okay. So it is very similar to this.
It really is. Obviously, this has a little bit more of a bump out on the
About a
bottom, but
flare.
you can see there's a little bit of flare there.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because the point of the picture, Andrea, of course, was to show whatever the pattern in the sheathing is existing, we're going to be able to duplicate that very, very closely. Even though I had no idea it was anything close to this. If it is, it's just coincidence, so, yeah.
It's just like this, except for it's got more of a flare on the bottom.
And if need be, I'm sure T-Mobile could probably provide some local churches they've done something similar and maybe get some feedback from those churches.
Okay. Mike, you want to see some more detail, kind of a blow-up of the spire, the belfry, where kind of the replacement composite shingles start, extent of the work, what's going to stay? Is that kind of...
Yeah, it'd be helpful to get the drawing of the actual, whoever's going to manufacture this steeple, to submit that drawing. That will show us the details of
That's reasonable to ask.
where it's going to start and, the trim details and that sort of stuff.
And just, I guess, the break point for...
Yeah, right, so if there's
Where it's going to begin and end, yeah.
even a simple line that just says, from here up is being replaced or something, clarifies it a little bit more.
Yep.
And if you come back for that clarification, can you find out whether or not that GPS antenna could then be inside as well?
I feel better than 90% that yes, that can definitely be tucked in here.
Yep.
There's no way of obstructing it.
Okay.
So it sounds like you like us back, what was that, December 14th?
That's correct.
Before Christmas? Okay, same time? Or is it to be determined?
Yeah, we're 6:30, but we got to put the agenda together, so
Right.
we'll get back to you within 10 days of that meeting date of where the exact time slot would be.
It'll be early like now,
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
do continuations first.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
And any other requests, any other information that people would like to see here with this? Okay. All right, good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate
your
it.
time.
Thank you guys for coming in. Okay. All right, we're running just about on time. Next up, we have 243 Main Street, Pear Tree Hill Local Historic District. The Lelands are here. Thanks for coming in.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay, thanks, Ronnie. This is for some modifications to the front, side, and rear of the existing house. Demolish an existing garage and construct a new garage to the rear.
There's an error there. They do not have an existing garage.
Correct.
That was my mistake.
Okay. All right. Okay. How are you, Heidi?
Fine, how are all of you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us. This is a beautiful 1808 Federal-style colonial. It was originally built as a two-story or two-family home, and I'm not sure, Andrea, I was looking for any photos that showed it with the original two doors, but I couldn't find that picture, and there may not exist.
There may not be one.
It was renovated. Okay, it was renovated into, one single-family home. But when they did that, they put on this rather teeny front entry, and we always felt that that just wasn't in proportion with the overall length of the home. So with the front entrance, our goal was to have a very simple column covered entry and enlarge the entrance so that the side lights become a little bit more of a design element and kind of a welcoming feature on the front of the home. So that's the only thing that you will see that on the front of the house that is changing. And we brought multiple images, and I believe in your product list, we showed some items from Upstate Doors who will make custom wood doors for us, and they do an excellent job. We showed a leaded glass, or it could even just be wood that has that design. Primarily, even when we're reading the summary, the historic summary from Hingham, it talks about many of these federal homes had elliptical details above the door. We felt that would be too fancy on such an austere, imposing front, but we wanted to add some detail, so we kind of took that detail that you would typically see in an elliptical fan, and we put it in the side lights, and that was kind of our thought with that. So that is one item that we are changing. On the side elevation, if it's along the driveway, there is an existing 12-foot two-story addition in the back, and it has this awkward shed dormer on it. So all we are planning on doing is taking that shed dormer off and putting a hip roof line on it. So we're proposing a more traditional roof line there. And we thought having it be hip, you would just see the roof, and it would make it feel a little bit lower as well. And then we're just adding, attached to that, a back covered porch, so when someone parks at the driveway, they are in cover to the back door. So those are the items that one would see that are change the volume. And then on that same side elevation, we have two windows up in the attic that are very long and seem out of proportion. So we're asking to just reduce them in size. And then we're proposing to add one more window on the second floor, maintaining the symmetry, and that's for a new bathroom for the Leland's daughter. So those are the changes that we're proposing for the main house. When the Lelands purchased the home, there was no garage, even though it does show it on the Pear Tree site plan or district plan. So we are proposing a garage in the rear. We really wanted it to look more like a barn. And I do have photos that I just took walking down Main Street. And it's interesting because maybe 50% of them have double hung windows in the gable, 50% have a solid barn door. And we are open to really either. We want it to look more like a barn structure in the rear. And I can just pass these down. These are just pictures on Main Street that have very similar structures to the rear of these homes. So we do feel that it's something that is vernacular for this neighborhood, and we have pushed it far enough back that it does not trigger a zoning special permit. And just the front face of the barn is 183 feet back from the property line. So it is set back quite a bit. It's 108 feet back from the house. So we really wanted it to feel like an accessory building at the rear of the property. And so the barn will have all the same materials as the main house. We're proposing clapboard. The doors for the garage will be wood. We do have a couple different choices for the barn door style, and welcome comments from the board, you know, with glass, without glass, whether we have the kind of shiplap or beadboard front, but the Lelands really are very flexible in what these details look like. So they're open to the board's kind of choices with those details. And those are the basic elements that we're proposing here.
Thanks, Heidi. Anything else? Okay.
We did have a conversation, and maybe it's a little bit too early. We wanted to talk about paint color of the home. The Lelands did look at the Historic Paints of America. And I know it's a discussion we've all had, is if pure white is considered historic. You know, that's one question that we had. We also, I can pass this around, we were looking at indigo blue, as well as Emma, which is a yellow, and a Hewitt white. All of these were from that palette.
That period.
Yes, so we just wanted to talk about color as well. We don't plan to change the color of the roof. It's really the body of the home.
All right, any questions from the audience at this point? Any thoughts? Floor is open.
So if the butters have comments.
Please, step up to the mic.
You guys know me, Nicole Rafelson, 244 Main Street. I'm across the street from 243 High. When I first moved into the Pear Tree Hill Historic District in 2001, I would say I didn't understand much about historic preservation other than I liked the look and the feel of old homes. And I might have thought that the proposed entryway to 243, you know, prettified the home and was something desirable. But as I've worked on renovating my home and worked with workmen from the area, I've learned and gained much more of an appreciation of historic preservation, the density of old growth wood, the fact that newly milled woodwork doesn't match the way old woodwork was milled. Things like, you know, window placement that's quirky and odd and doesn't make sense is actually what gives it a historic character instead of looking like a modern interpretation of a federal home. And while there are federal homes that have, you know, extended front entrances, I don't think it's appropriate in a historic district to alter a facade to some idealized version or interpretation of an architectural style. The purpose of a historic district should be to preserve the visible exterior facades as much as possible so that the historic character of the neighborhood isn't obliterated. Hingham is really unique in its careful stewardship of its historic homes. All around Boston, there are historic homes in neighborhoods that have been renovated and altered over time so that the original character is long lost. While it can seem inconvenient at times to comply with historic district guidelines, ultimately it's these guidelines that protect the character of the neighborhoods that distinguish Hingham. So I feel that adding a more formal entryway would change the austere, simple federal facade into something that wasn't really the character of the actual history of the home. And regarding the garage, I don't have enough of an understanding of what would be visible from the street or not. I appreciate that the goal is to make it look like an, outbuilding barn. Thanks.
Cool, thank you. We have openings on the commission, if you're interested. You've put a lot of thought into that, and we appreciate that. So, thanks for your efforts. Seriously, though.
I'm on advisory right now. I don't think they'll allow me to do 2 committees, but when that's up, I'll let you know.
All right, let me know when you resign. Okay. Any thoughts on that?
I don't feel like we're making it more formal. We're giving cover to the front entry, which is a very practical and functional item. And the original two-family is gone. The two-family function of this structure is gone. What is currently installed is really meant for a much smaller facade. So all we're doing is widening the side lights. We are very flexible in doing a simpler side light. We could do just straight rectangular divided lights. But our feeling is it's still a relatively austere and imposing building. We kept a very simple, relatively flat roof, simple columns, and there's a function here. But we do feel it's such a long elevation that the current door is proportionally too small. If this had been a single-family home in 1808, that door is out of proportion. I don't think it's appropriate. So I don't think this is a modern interpretation, and we're not losing character. The two-story home is no longer there. And if I'm assuming when there were 2 doors there, each door was probably 3 feet wide with some trim and a wall in between and trim on either side, that's 7.5 feet wide. That's how I came up with 7.5 feet for this new door and side light combination. So my thought is practically that is what the detail and that opening would have been when there were 2 doors in that location.
Any photos going back in time?
I can offer, Mr. Macedo, who comes and likes to visit historic homes, came to our house first week we lived there, brought us a book that shows an oblique angle from the buttonwood tree to our house that shows it when they were digging it up to run the trolley. I suspect that has a photo with a 2-family front door from, when would that be, late 1800s. So it would have been, a 70-something-year-old house at that point. My understanding is the door was changed sometime in the 1900s.
Okay. Do you think there was ever anything there that was similar to what you're proposing, or anything
We have no idea if there was ever cover. The other reason why I took so many photos literally walking down Main Street, so many of those homes have a simple covered entry. And so our feeling is it is completely in keeping with federal vernacular architecture.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions from the audience? Yeah, please. Welcome.
Hi, it's Kim Doble, 241 Main Street, and we're just interested in the location of the barn.
Okay. All right.
I can tell you anecdotally, because you know what our backyard looks like. You know where the apple tree is in the back?
Yes.
The one that has good apples. The front of the barn would be basically that tree line.
So this is Main Street here. So it's 180 feet back here. This on the diagram is that tree.
And this is the fence line here.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And the dotted lines are the side yard setbacks. So by right, we can put it anywhere here from a zoning perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, that's.
We tried to hide it.
We tried to push it back as far as we could.
And I think going back is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it still gave them a yard that wasn't taken up by drive, and it's right before the land slopes. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Understood.
Right where it
Exactly
starts to go up a little bit.
That's great. Okay. Thank you.
If you have additional questions as we, bring up the barn in discussion, you're welcome to chime in, so just let me know.
Mr. Doble,
Okay.
your address, please,
Oh, sorry, 241 Main Street.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? All right, let's open it up. Maybe we can move front to back as we talk about what's being proposed here. Any initial thoughts on the front facade?
I have some questions.
Okay.
Heidi, for the front entryway, maybe my eyes, I'm looking at a single step and then I'm up on the platform? I'm up on the landing?
Yes, that's our goal.
Okay.
And then you'd have a 7-inch step from that landing into the house.
Okay. And that step is wood construction like the platform itself?
We've actually been talking that we were thinking stone.
Okay, like a
if that
granite?
is appropriate. And again, we're very flexible.
Or brick.
And we were thinking brick, if that's more appropriate.
Okay.
Walkway off of that.
Yeah, and then they were thinking a walkway from there to the
To the
street.
sidewalk.
To the street.
To the sidewalk.
Right, to the sidewalk, okay. The windows called out on the side elevation, it says new wood double hung. Are those a true divided light?
We were
SDL?
proposing a true divided light wood, either Marvin or Colby.
Okay, so a TDL. And would that be the awning window too in the shower?
Yes, that would be wood.
Okay. Did you consider a gable roof there instead of a hip roof?
We did, they're talking about, he's talking about.
Yeah.
We did look at that option. It just seemed busier from the back.
Okay,
And we thought that hipping it just made it that much lower. So then really a third of that roof is lower. Where when we brought it straight out, it just was a very long line of roof material.
okay.
But I think, again, if the board feels a gable's more appropriate, I don't think we have a problem with a gable roof there.
For now, yes, thank you.
I think the modifications to the front of the house and the front entry are a bit much. It takes too much away from the existing character of that front entry facade.
Do you mean the side lights or the actual covered
The entire,
entry?
the entire design. I think keeping it as it is, or some other more minor modifications, I think might be appropriate, but I think to lose that front entry, which is a beautiful front entry piece, which may not be original to the house, but it's still a historic piece of this property that I think should be maintained. The other modifications to the main portion of the house, I have no issues with. I think those are all fine. And the concept of the barn, I think is also fine. I'd like to see it staked out and maybe some story poles. I think generally the concept of the barn is fine. I think I might look to see if there's a way to bring that ridge height down a little bit, that main ridge height, to see if there's any way you could bring the height down. It looks like the grade sort of drops a little bit as you go towards the back, which I think will help.
Yeah, we were just
It goes
maintaining
up.
the existing grades, or the current house has a 612 pitch, which we thought on a barn would look strange, and we are trying to get a space up there.
I think the pitch might be fine if you're able to just slide the whole thing down a little bit.
Oh, you mean the plate height?
Right.
Yeah, because right now, we just had the plate height 3 feet from the second floor. So the only reason why we raised it, we thought it looked more barn-like, but we could definitely lower that, because we had options that had that.
It'd be good to see some other options
Sure.
in what you're doing there. It may be you're on the right track as it is, but without seeing it. So,
Just looking at the barn garages on Main Street, very few had shallow roof pitches that were historic.
yeah, I think the pitch
And
is
so I think
probably-
that's how we got the pitch, but we would definitely consider, because we looked at that,
Yeah.
lowering that plate. Because that will still give us a room upstairs, which is our goal. For the front entry, we also talked about simpler side lights, but also maybe an 18-inch cover and maybe simple brackets. if the columns are too much. They just want some cover at their front door. And you know, we could simplify it with a detail like that, if that's something that would be more appropriate.
It's hard to say. It's tough to lose what you have there. I mean, that's a beautiful entrance.
It just seems too small, though. The side lights are so skinny. Like, it looks like they just filled in space where the original doors had been, and that's why there's so much white trim on both sides of that door. Because that's unusual that it would have so much, it's like trim, you know, to fill the opening.
Is your primary concern the space between, you know, the windows, that kind of dead space there?
Yeah.
What if you put, you know, the lights, you know, just outside, you know, you have a whiteboard and you have, you know, 2 lights on either side or something like that to take up some of that space? Just a thought or suggestion, you know?
Well, there's one light there
Yeah,
that just looks too small.
Exactly.
That looks small.
So maybe
It looks too small.
Maybe something a little more substantial might help.
Or one thing, what if we left the columns that are there, but just made wider side lights that were simple with vertical kind of panels? Because that's the space that looks like they just filled in with trim between the side light, the outside of the side light before it comes to the column.
Yep.
It just looks like they filled in when they took the 2 doors out. So I think we would consider, do you think, if we added that and just had side light all the way to here? Because when you walk into this space, it's a gracious 2-story space. These side lights look puny in that rim. They just seem out of proportion.
Yeah, it looks like you've got some width there where you might be able to
Yeah,
line that up
so I
without
could
really
leave-
modifying much of the other detail.
We could leave the column, if you're okay with that. So we could leave this detail, which we think might go back to the early 1900s, and get a larger wood side light that would eliminate that blank space.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
I could see that it might work.
The concern too. I mean, that's a lot of yellow.
So I think, so Hans, were you suggesting maybe moving the light onto the clapboard?
Yeah, maybe it's, you know, behind it there's a, you know,
Because
there's
that's the
so much
problem,
yellow.
there's so much space here
Yeah.
that it just feels blank. And so we
Yeah.
could certainly move more of a, maybe instead of the onion light, I don't think is appropriate, it's too informal.
something
So
with
more of a
lantern.
carriage lantern would be appropriate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and maybe just,
do 2 of them.
yeah.
Yeah, I would have it symmetrical, one on both sides. I think that would help, and just break up the space. So if we have like a lantern here and there, and then if this can get larger, I think it would feel better.
In my I want to make 2 comments, both coming from Monique Lehner's comments on the inventory. One is that this is actually a very simple colonial house that was built in the federal period. So that, in that sense, I don't see the size as puny. I see it as very simple, even though it's an evolved from the 2-family entry. And I think there's something to be said for keeping the entrance just as it is, given the history of the building as a colonial building. And then also, Monique Lehner commented on the current entrance with the frame side lights and so forth, and the plain entablature, she called a fine federal treatment. So it seems to me that she's creating a rapport between the simplicity of the structure from a federal perspective in light of it being a colonial building. And I think I can't be persuaded to do anything with this entrance, frankly, except to leave it as it is.
mean, our feeling is it's not original, and it was wider when there were two doors. We'd like to go to that width with our side lights.
But it's an evolution that has historic value at this point in time.
Yes, and we think this is too small proportionately, that it's not appropriate, and it wasn't
I
appropriate.
appreciate your perspective.
Just because it happened in the late 1800s doesn't mean it was right.
Well, what is right?
That it's completely, subjective eye, what's right. But with the extreme length of this building, we just feel those side lights just look too small. Even in relation to the pediment and to those columns, there's just that dead space that had been door and side light that was just filled in.
I just want to add that Monique Lehner she's very well known as an architectural historian. So this is not, I'm just saying that this is well considered, her comments. So.
Anything else?
No.
What do you think about moving the lights? Is that something that you would?
Well, in the words of John Lennon, let it be.
But it's not even symmetrical. I mean, a colonial and a federal are very symmetrical. And throwing on an onion light, which is more of a Cape Cod detail, in a more informal home, really is not appropriate for this house.
I'll tell you what, Heidi. Why don't do a mock-up, or do a drawing of what you think.
Look at some simplified versions of what we've discussed.
We'll take a look at it next time. And maybe you can do it with and without the lanterns.
Sure.
Just kind of take a look.
Mr. Shanoff, I think we had an abutter who had additional comments.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything down here regarding the front?
I tend to agree with Virginia and Mike. I think the front of this building has a quirky character that is a nice thing to see on Main Street.
Okay. All right. Nicole, do you want to come up to the mic if you have some comments?
I'm just a little confused when Heidi was talking about changing the side lights. So does that mean that the sort of an entryway extension is off the table? So then we're just talking about extending the lights.
I was asked.
Side lights.
I think what we were referring to was just, the side lights.
So there's no projection.
Right.
But just changing.
That's right.
So
just to see what that looks like.
Okay.
And then I was just suggesting if you want to put the lanterns in that area on either side, and maybe do some drawings of that might be symmetrical, and we'll see how those look.
Okay, I guess my thought is if the original posit was they needed a protected entryway, and then for historic reasons that's off the table, why would you change what's historic? And it may not be historic to the original structure, but it is historic. It's over 100 and something years old, and we really don't have to get into discussions of what looks right or what's proportionate. It's historic. And that's kind of what makes historic so charming, is that it's quirky, it's wrong, it's odd, the windows are in funny places. That's what's great about historic. And that when you do a perfect interpretation of something, you get a new modern building that's an interpretation of a style. So that's what I think.
And we may arrive at your conclusion, so.
Okay.
I really don't think we're making a modern interpretation. What we're discussing, and I think it's very important to look at in the elevation, is that blank space be used as part of the entrance. So that's what we'll look at. So we're not touching those columns and try and use what had been a design element. Now, one thing that Rob pointed out, right now there's literally, if you look at the image, there's a 12-inch rock in front of his front door.
Those are our steps, and the original step-ups are beside it. They just filled in a granite block in between the original steps. So that was the original width.
So if you look at it too, it's very awkward and not
unsafe.
safe. It's not to code either. It's literally a 12-inch high slab at the door. So, you know, one thing I'd like to look at, especially when we go out to the site, is maybe look at that in detail and try to come up with a compromise that this front door can be used by everybody and is comfortable and safe. And just figure out how we can get into this building without a 12-inch step. And maybe we do slab, or maybe we have one slab in front that's the length that cuts it in half. If those original stones can stay, and do something to break that up.
Okay. I hear you. Okay. We'll take a look at that. All right, anything else in the front? Facade?
I would just echo what Mike have said and what Virginia have said on the simplicity of the front entrance, trying to keep that rather than maybe going and making it a covered instead. I do like the option of possibly putting the side lights or putting new lights on each side and get something different than the onion light that just looks small and out of proportion.
Is it historically appropriate to have a block behind a light, or would a block be as small as the light so it's not? Ben, I don't know how else to explain what that is.
Yeah, a mounting block, if
Yeah.
you will, behind the back plate of the light itself.
Yes,
I
many
think-
new homes, they're too large, I
Right.
think. And so we always grapple with, well, do you, like if let's say it's a rectangular, you know.
You can make the mountain block smaller.
Yeah, I think you need a transition. You don't want to just attach it to the clapboard. That looks strange. But I think what we would like to look at is a block that is maybe half an inch on all sides larger than the actual light, if that makes sense.
I have one other question, or two other questions. The two windows up in the attic, the reason for replacing those, is it anything other than size, or?
The size is really odd. They're very low to the floor. Rob and Katie have 3 young children. We want to use this as a playroom. It's not safe, the height, and it just looks kind of strange on the existing elevations. If you look at the other side, it was very hard to photograph, but if you look at the other side elevation, they're much smaller. And on the house, because it was a 2-family, what's interesting is the attic windows on the opposite side are different size and light pattern. And I think I'll have to take another photo to really show that, because it was hard to photograph that. But they're actually 2/2, I believe. 2/1, which we didn't think looked appropriate on this side. And in my mind, it's almost, as Nicole said, quirky that because it was a 2-family, there are differences to the 2 sides. And they are smaller on that side. And they feel safer when you're up in that room. So they just look on the existing elevation. They look too long for...
You can look at that when you come out.
Yeah, they just look too long for an attic window.
And then on the garage, to the front of the garage, with the little separate door, that window, is that just for light?
Just for light, and it
You
could be
have
double
another
hung.
window that's just next to it on the side.
They could be, that could be a double hung.
Would you consider like not having that there? Just make it a simpler entrance, since you already have a light on the side?
Problem with that. And we could actually put another lantern.
There you go. Okay.
Lanterns everywhere.
Lanterns will solve all the problems.
Okay. Any other comments on the driveway side? All right. Any thoughts in the rear? I'm not sure how much we're going to see from the street. We'll have to look at it from different angles.
Because
when
we're not
we go out there.
changing the volume
Yep.
except the roof. 'Cause right now, this long, shallow shed
Yep.
looks kind of bizarre, not historic.
And it's sinking.
And it's sinking.
Okay. Any comments on that? No.
I have no problems with it right now.
Okay. All right.
And maybe when we come out and talk about the garage, we'd love the board's input on the garage doors. There were, on the paperwork you have, there were 3 that were our first choice, and I believe I have that written up on the paperwork that I provided today. So you'll see under the wood garage doors, we were considering the Carolina, the brandy wine, and then a secondary Carolina. So again, I think that's something we could discuss when we're out there and you can see the details of the home. But the Lelands are very flexible with that detail.
Okay. My comments on the barn would be, I believe this is 32 feet in width. And I'm wondering if you might want to preserve more of your view out the back by not taking this right up to the, just about to the setback lines, and have this something a little bit more narrow. Maybe a 25-foot barn. Maybe the stairwell can be configured so you can, and the doors can be configured in the interior or something like that. So it's a little bit of a smaller building. You might want to preserve a little bit of that view up the hill.
Down the hill.
Or down the hill, excuse me. Yeah, down the hill. It does drop off. That's all right.
Then it goes back up.
Yeah.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, at the back it goes back up.
Okay.
We could certainly, well,
That's part of the reason why I moved it so far back.
yeah, we moved it back so we'd have the yard here, and we did want
Flatter
stairs
yard.
in there, flatter yard. And I do believe that that portion of the house, of the structure is the least visible from the street, but
The
I think...
stairwell side?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's behind the house, but I think that's something we could stake out and look at.
How long have you been in the house now?
About 18 months.
Yeah. My thought is that, you got quite a bit of asphalt here going back to the barn. And, maybe you want to have a little bit more of a yard preserved here instead of having, the driveway running through your backyard so much. I don't know how you would position the barn differently, but
My other issue is the septic system.
okay.
If you look it's kind of light, but it says the infiltration units. I have a minimum dimension I can get towards that, so I really can't pull the barn closer to the house. And we did feel like we are certainly,
Yard closer to the house.
yeah, we're cutting a chunk of asphalt, close to the house, out of their backyard, so that could be more planting bed and lawn.
Yeah. I'm just trying to see if you can make it a little bit more,
Because I am 10 feet from that infiltration system.
you
now.
have a little bit
Can't
more
get
of an
close.
open feel to the backyard where you can use it, that's all. But maybe there's a way to lower the ridge height on the barn a little bit and maybe just tighten it up a little bit, perhaps. That might work for you. And also give you a little bit more view out the back from your house. Any other questions? So, yeah, we'd love to come out and take a look. Certainly want to talk about the front entry and take a good look at the step up there, see what that looks like, see what we can do. I think if you can stake out that back where the barn's going to be, and what you're, if it's this drawing or if it's something a little bit different, based on the comments here, just if you want to just stake that out for us, I think that would be helpful. Does anyone see story poles on the barn, or you think this is straightforward?
think it's straightforward.
Okay.
I mean, staking it out is definitely critical.
I think if maybe we use wood, like snow stakes,
Yeah.
and maybe we'll use
Rope
string
them
or
off or
something
whatever,
to
yeah.
rope them off to kind of get a volume there. And we
Okay.
can see how far back it is.
Okay. Good. Any other requests before we come out? So we've been talking about the first two Saturdays in December, the 2nd and the 9th, correct?
Yes.
So,
I'm out of town on the 9th, but what is your, on the 2nd and 9th?
Is it the 2nd or is it the?
have those dates right?
I believe it is the
2nd and the
2nd.
2nd and the 9th?
Yeah.
Okay. You would prefer the 2nd?
I would. I can't be here on the 9th.
Okay.
What time of day?
In the morning.
Morning's fine.
The 2nd is okay
Yep.
with you?
Heidi, can you give me for next time just the overall ridge height of the garage
From the front?
from the
can
front
tell you
and
right now.
and just the same thing on the existing house? I know they're going to be far apart, but
Yeah. It's 25 feet now, but I can certainly, I have 3 feet of clay. That's what my plate height is.
okay.
It does look more like a carriage house when we dropped it, but I can certainly, we have those drawings. That was one of the options we looked at. And the current house is 29.
Thank you.
Heidi, could you please repeat the doors that you're considering? You said Carolina.
Yeah, it's on
Brandywine.
the printed sheet. I'm not sure if you got one, but I have an extra that I can give you.
Oh, that's fine. Great. Thank you.
It's right here. You can ignore my notes. But it's
Okay.
basically that, one of these and that.
Okay, I can give you this, and,
If we want, with one cross.
okay. All right.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks.
Good. Anything else?
Could I make one final comment?
Please.
I just wanted to thank you for your time. I grew up in Hingham. I bought a 200-year-old house on purpose
Yeah.
because I love historic homes. All my other friends buy cookie cutter, cul-de-sac, safe neighborhoods. I grew up in one of those and wanted out. I appreciate the time you guys spend on this, and believe me, I'm working to make this a historic house still. So I appreciate your time and input. We've spent a lot of time and thought in trying to make that happen. The first thing I did when I moved in was went to Andrea's office and looked through to see what you had on my house. So it means a lot to me. So I appreciate the time and effort that you put into it.
Sounds like.
Thank you.
Sounds like the home has got the right owner.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much for your time. And you'll let me know what time on the 2nd that works for
Yes.
you? Great.
Okay, sorry for the short delay. Next up, we have the Williamses, 730 Main Street. This is for the replacement of 5 windows in the front and the side of the house. So, thanks for coming in.
Hi, my pleasure. How are you?
Good.
Good, thank you.
So we have not been out to the house. So do you want to just give us a little bit of overview of what's going on and what the plan
Sure.
is?
So when we had purchased the house, probably about 8 years ago at this point, the original 5 windows were untouched. So we have on the lower level 3 that are the old tension system, and then 2 on the upper level, which at some point were replaced probably in the non-historic manner, because they're a combination of vinyl and wood. So whether we're talking about the first or the second level, they're just now showing their age and not necessarily safe in terms of when you keep them open, will they stay open? So I think it's time to consider revisiting replacing them, but we want to do so in the historical manner. So we, much like we did with the rest of the house when we took this over, replace them with, 100% wood windows, the divided light, so they look exactly like they are today. They're just being more functional and, of course, saved.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Questions from the audience? All right. Let's open it up. Who would like to start?
Have you thought about repairing them or restoring them as opposed to replacing them?
I think I would agree with that for potentially the lower level. I think it's not necessarily appropriate for the upper level since they're not historic in the way they were replaced at some point prior to our ownership.
How old do you think the upper story windows are?
I'm going to guess they were replaced at some point in either late 70s or early 80s because they are half wood, half vinyl. So, if we're going to go through this investment, which is anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 for these windows, we're willing to make them 100% wood like the rest of the house that we have.
In regard to those upper windows that are part wood and part vinyl, is it the sash that's wood and the tracks are vinyl?
Yes.
Or is part of the sash also vinyl?
No, I believe the sash is wood and the windows themselves are vinyl.
Okay. But the windows on the first floor are wood.
100% wood. Just like the ones when we restored the house from a two-family into a single family, we did 100% wood product with true divided light.
And so have you had somebody look at the potential of repairing at least the ones on the first floor, restoring them?
We approached the project as a 100% replacement at this time.
So you haven't?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions? We often go out and just take a look at the windows,
Sure.
see what we can do, see what kind of shape they're in.
Of course.
Obviously, by the line of questioning, you can understand that we're preference would be restoration whenever possible. Nobody's a fan of vinyl on this commission, I can tell you
Right,
that.
and I'm not proposing that.
Right, I got you. But especially if it's existing, it's so, I think a wood product would be preferable. Do you want to go out and take a look, Ben? You think that
Yes.
makes sense to do that?
Yeah.
And then, we're primarily concerned with historic, original windows. It doesn't appear to be the case with these. So, but let's just see how the functioning aspect of it is and what they look like, and
Sure.
let the experts, opine on it, if that's amenable to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, the reason for our initiative on this, particularly on the lower level, is safety, because they slide down right now, because there's just a tension window. So, a couple hours in the room, they start to just get lower and lower and lower. So, I'd like to be able to open them up and be comfortable with it without sticking a 2x4 in there.
Yeah.
The upper levels, I think you would agree upon site visit that, if we're going to go through this investment, that they be changed out and they would certainly be more historic in the replacement. So I think your concern obviously will be on the lower level, and everything we've done thus far has been in keeping with the historic design, which is our intent. And I'm willing to make that investment accordingly.
Okay. When did you do the work on the addition? When was that?
I think it's been about 8 years now.
Yeah.
We took our time, so it was probably about 1.5 years, almost a 2-year project.
Okay. How are those windows that you put in? You said that they were true divided light?
They were. So they were originally a Brosco project.
Yeah.
So we're exploring a Marvin solution at this point.
How are they working for you? That's what I was going to ask you.
They're working fine. I think there's some challenges with perhaps how they were installed, because sometimes the upper will just shimmy down.
Okay.
Which isn't ideal, but other than that, they're what I would expect to have been pleased with the investment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good.
If I could just make one suggestion, I think if in fact the first floor windows can be repaired, but the second floor with vinyl, those are clearly non-historic windows, assuming that's the case, then they would have to be replaced with something. I would just encourage you to get the spec sheets for the actual window, the specific window that you propose to use. That way, that'll save a little bit of time. So once
Sure.
we go out there and take a look at it, at least you'll already have the paperwork ready to go
Yep.
to look at.
Yeah, I do have the Marvin book, and we wanted to make sure that this was an amenable project before getting into the weeds on that. Ideally, I'd like to do this all as a all-in-one with the contractor. It's a little bit more efficient with their time, never mind how much it costs me.
Brie, are you available on is the 2nd?
Yes, Saturday the 2nd.
What time are we talking?
It would be in the morning, probably around 10.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So I'll confirm with you then.
Thank you. Yeah, and then when you do come out, if we deem that they are replaceable versus repairable on the lower level, I do want to explore, because we have been losing heat because we have single pane on everything else that we restored. The idea of double pane, just because our energy bills are pretty high. I don't think if we do true divided light, that would destroy the look. Obviously, we welcome your feedback on that, but that'd be something I'd like the committee to consider, especially since they are front-facing windows.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Anything else?
Good.
And how many of you, if not all of you, are coming on Saturday?
We don't know.
All of it. At least a few.
Am I required to provide refreshments?
No.
Okay. All right, so Andrea, then we'll look to hear from you?
Yes.
Okay, is there anything else I can provide at this time?
No, this is great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate the consideration.
Yeah. no,
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in.
Have a good night.
We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Sure, sounds
All right.
good.
Okay. Next up, we have 66 School Street. Matt Falconieri is here to talk about the installation of a fence around the exterior of his property. He's putting in a pool.
Mr. Chairman, this is my neighbor, so I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay. So Matt, I gotta tell you the story. I'm riding by your house, and these kids, I don't know whose kids they were, your kids, I don't know, they come ripping out of the front door, and there's like a sign up there. It says, keep out, or something. It says like private property or something like that, right? And they come ripping out of there like they were playing house or something. Huge smiles on their face. I don't know who they were, just so you know. Thank you. Okay. Just so
Presumably they were my kids.
I don't know, but they were having a lot of fun in there.
Okay.
So, all right,
Thank you.
All right. So, Matt, do you want to talk about what your plan is here?
So, standing with your back to your street, we have two sections of fence that we're here to discuss tonight. One is flanking the home on the left, the other is on the right. The section on the left is approximately 8 feet long, and the section on the right is approximately 15 feet long. There is a pool proposed for the backyard, and therefore, I believe it's a Board of Health bylaw requiring a 6-foot tall fence. Sean Papich, my architect, has enclosed some photos of other fences, or of the fence that we're proposing, and it's been done in the neighborhood before. So in keeping with theme of what else has been done, this is what we'd like to do.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Any comments from the audience? Okay. Open up for discussion. What's on fence?
I think it's inappropriate to put a black wood fence in a historic district. I think a black iron fence would be fine, but not a black wood fence in a historic district. I think it should be earth tone or white.
Just to add to that, I think in particular with this house, you know, that fence should almost recede and just sort of blend in. So I think with the fact that if it's left natural, it'll just weather and it'll turn silver and it'll just go away. And I agree that the black is a bit heavy, particularly with the cedar board fence where it's all tight. There's no gaps. There's no space. It's just an imposing fence. But I understand the need and the requirement to fence in a pool. So I think that style of fence is probably okay. It's the color of black that's problematic.
Justin,
We deferred.
yeah. I think natural would work, if that's amenable to you. Okay.
One question, on the description here, and on the plan, it says there's a black chain link fence in some areas. Is that, can you show us on the plan exactly where
Sure.
the difference is between the two types of fence?
Sure. So basically along the rear property line, behind the proposed trees, and then on the left property line.
So is it,
None of which is visible from School Street. It's all behind the
right, but just
proposed.
so I know where it,
Right where your fingers are,
right here,
correct?
and around this way,
Correct.
and
then
around this way.
it's gonna jump back up the cedar, coming back through there. That line there.
That, it looks like that's, just based on the crude drawing here, it looks like this is where it might change to cedar.
No, it changes the cedar down to your left.
This
Back
way?
down in there.
Down this way?
Yes.
So, from there to,
To that corner, and then it right there. Nope, you've gone too far. There.
somewhere over here?
Yeah, it's embedded in the trees.
Okay, because this one says cedar shiplap fence here,
Correct.
or at least it's pointing to that.
Correct.
So
Right to about there.
is there a way where this, just for the continuation, can go to where it jogs, and then that other fence starts here, rather than changing that style of fence somewhere down the middle, right? So if you stop it at a corner and then pick up,
The intent is it's all hidden with the trees that we're importing.
so that left side you won't even see.
Right.
Okay.
What is on the other side of the chain link fence? I know that's the property division line.
Yes.
And so do you have neighbors in the back, or is it woods or
Yeah, we have neighbors.
neighbors? And the neighbors can see the chain link, or is that disguised?
It's going to be planted with these trees right up against it. So the trees, we've done this before, numerous occasions, where the branches of the trees all just grow through the fence and the fence becomes concealed.
Okay.
It's an evergreen.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, voting members will be Ronnie, myself.
Ben.
All the way down here. Ben, be the fifth? Okay, great. Would somebody like to make a motion on the installation of a fence around this number 66 School Street?
Sure, I'll make the motion, although I've got one more question.
Oh, sorry.
It sounds like, and I'm not speaking for the entire board, but when I make a motion, it sounds like there's not much support for the black cedar fence.
I do like the black fence as a neighbor. I just don't want to get involved in
your decision, but I do like it.
Sure. Okay.
Our preference is black.
So the motion I would propose.
I think you should make a motion with
is-
cedar and.
Right, which is where I'm going.
Yep.
Okay.
Just natural.
Yeah. Okay.
I think just making this blend in as much as possible is the way to go.
Yeah.
Especially considering that side of the street.
Yeah.
Be my view.
Yeah, no, that's where I was going to go. I just wanted to confirm. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness to 66 School Street to install a 6-foot-high cedar board fence and a 6-foot-high shiplap cedar fence with topper, left natural to weather. As indicated on the drawings, rear of the property and left-hand side of the property in portion to have a black 6-foot-high chain link fence with landscaping to conceal.
Anything else? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Okay, you got it.
Thank you for your time.
Matt, just before you head out, just a few words. I am a big supporter of you and your company, your projects. I think you're a terrific builder. You know, you've got great homes and projects all throughout town. This project became a little bit more than I think I expected. And I do want to apologize to the abutters and to some of the other people on School Street that may have been impacted here. I think we could have done a better job in the review of this from day one. We'll try to do a better job in the future. And what I'm saying is just basically a reflection of the scope and the size of the building. Not to take anything away from how you're building it. We have no jurisdiction over the back of this property and what you do. The only thing is the fence. So what I'm asking is that when you do put in the hardscape features and some of the other elements in the rear, if you would take into consideration how close you are to some of the property lines, especially some of the terrace work that you're planning on doing. It looks like you're only a foot or two off the property line. I think that's, I think just in the spirit of living in the historic districts, if you could just take that into consideration when you do build this out. I think the pool is also very large for this property. It's very wide for a very narrow lot. And I think just all the hardscape features and everything just make the massing more substantial, okay? I just wanted you to understand that, and I wanted to just let everyone know that it's been on our minds, it's been on my mind. Okay, and it's not something that I've been dwelling over, but when I saw this plot plan and kind of the extent and scope of this project from where we started, my reaction was, oh my gosh, and it's going right up until to the property lines. Okay, so I just wanted you to know that. Okay, and appreciate you coming in, and it's been a pleasure to work with you, and I'm sure we'll see each other again. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Come on up.
I can't remember if I gave you any of the
So,
notes. This is the actual.
so this is Gretchen. She lives next door,
This will be quick and easy.
and she would. Yep. Okay.
So he should definitely be over there.
Takes the rest of the night off.
This is my husband, Stephen.
How you doing?
Nice to meet you all.
Good.
Andrew's been very helpful, I will say. I think she made a great improvement. We have John Teriyaki working with us.
Yeah, we know John very
So we
well.
just kind of held still for a minute, and I thought I'd just bring to you guys what we want to do, and if you say that's just not going to happen, then maybe we'll go in a different direction, but
No final plans here, we're
Yeah, there's
just trying to
really-
get an idea.
really trying to get an
direction,
idea. Actually,
more
I
than
did-
anything else.
another one or two up of just a little bit bigger.
You'll have
Oh, no.
final plans and all that at the appropriate time.
Who's going to vote for me? There you go. Ben, he might build it, right? Yeah, it's easy. So those are just to
Okay.
give it a little bit of an expansion. And we thought the dormers, just to take it kind of from the 50s Levittown to something that is a little more charming. And we, more importantly, would get a lot of light. It's a very dark, weirdly very dark house. So our other hope is to eventually go out to the side as well. So 2 little dormers up top, and then somehow to bring light into that entrance. So whether that's side lights, or whether that's 2 little square lights on the side of that bump out. I've got pictures of kind of both ideas. Yeah. If you guys want to see those. I don't know. Did I put those in?
We can share them.
There's just a couple of different ideas. One would have to be more glassy, one would here, and then that's just kind of plain with maybe the 2 on the side.
Okay, sure.
We're the last little house.
And still will be.
And it still will be the littlest house.
Not a, this is, Hans, just to chime in as a butter to Matt's property, and really what's been done in the neighborhood, in our opinion, is spectacular all around us. We're glad to see it, glad to be a part of it. We know that all of that stuff has come through here. It is bigger than the house that was there before. But I know Matt will do a nice job, planning in between, and
He's always been a good neighbor.
Yeah, I love what's going on and what's happening in the neighborhood. So personally, we're big fans.
Okay, but we're really just talking about widening the front, adding dormers. Oh, and maybe changing it to shingle. So we're from the Cape mainly, and the front's always clapboard and the sides are always shingle on a Cape. I do like that look. Maybe it doesn't work in Hingham. I do like an all shingle look as well. So I don't know if those are possibilities, or I just kind of thought I'd throw it out and see what sticks.
This is 1950s?
1950s.
Yeah, okay.
I tried to do some research on it. It doesn't look like, that's Levittown.
Yeah. How much, you want to bump out 4 feet?
No, not even. It's like 2.5 feet. To the side, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 4 feet that's the extension on this bit, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah, that's going to probably be about 3 to 4 feet.
From where you are now?
Yeah, this is only about a foot and a half, maybe 2
Yeah.
feet at the most. I think it was 6 feet to 8 feet or something.
What do you think your setbacks are on that side?
Oh, I know we're okay on
Matt's
this side because Andrea helped me with that, because we were trying to jog it to work it.
Yeah. You got that little driveway there on the
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then, do you think are you going to be within 15 feet, you think, with the bump out?
Yes, yes, definitely, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, just checking. Yes, within 15 feet. And because we now, and I love what Matt does too, we now get no sun. I'm thinking we'll extend the gravel driveway, just, to go towards the shed, get rid of that. We're going to re-landscape everything, obviously.
Yeah. I'm sorry about the sun.
Oh, honestly,
I am.
no, we're okay. We're okay.
Yeah, we are.
We really are.
I mean it honestly.
No, honestly.
I don't even know Matt, and we've chatted on 2 occasions, so there's nothing, it's just, as I said, I really like what's going on in the neighborhood.
I like that the house is pushed back too. Ours is further forward, so actually as you're coming down the street, it feels still very charming to me. I think honestly, we're the only ones who see the side, and I think once we do our little thing, I think it will be great.
Okay. All right.
So what do yeah.
So just, yeah.
In terms of what you're trying to get? or
Yeah, just
we're
seeing
trying
what you
to-
guys, I don't know, you know,
Overall look-wise, are there things there that
work or don't work.
say,
or-
like, stay away from that, or don't do this, or?
Or we definitely wouldn't approve that, because I do want to go to John, get a real plan, propose it. I want to be the easiest person that's ever come through here. Seriously, I want to like slip right in through, have the builder go and have this thing done by May.
Wow. Wow.
If I could just chime in, I think the modifications you're proposing are fairly modest, and I think they'll be fine. I think working with John, you guys will come up with a solution that will likely work. You know, we've worked with him before, he does a great job. I think, you know, some of these, you know, certainly look appropriate. I think, you know, the arch in this one, maybe that's probably a little.
Oh, I was doing that one for the
busy.
side lights. So
Okay.
one has side lights, one doesn't have side lights, and one has shutters of each of those three.
Okay. And I think either of those, I think,
Okay.
you know, I think would be appropriate. And I think the little bump to the side, you know, is probably okay too. So I think you're on the right track, in my opinion.
Great.
Fantastic.
I don't know if there's anything more that you guys hear.
So we don't need like a vote, it's just more like,
Yeah.
it's going to be okay to go forward?
Probably not the shutters on such a small.
Well, that's what that was the other thing, is whether, shutter-wise, so I drew one with shutters, one without, and I kind of felt like the ones without looked almost like little, they didn't look substantial. So on the two I sent around that had like a second sheet on the real house, I drew it one way with shutters and one way without shutters on both, and the same with the side lights. One was a shutter and one was a side light.
I think if you, once you sort of get into the details and sizing, the proportions of the dormer, you can
Make it look more.
almost do whatever you want to make sure that the proportions of the trim and everything else that go around it
Okay.
work without
Shutters.
Great.
Okay.
I think you have some flexibility here because this is, you know, this is a 1950s cape, and you're making some minor modifications to it. Do you want to do anything off the back?
Well, we're hoping so this will be a kitchen mudroom, and the mudroom will be off the back. So it'll come kind of, not a full L because we don't need that much space. Maybe 20, what do we say, like 25, 30 feet total. It's already 10 now, so another like 20 feet coming back. Which, yeah, gives us still plenty. I think it's just beyond where the deck is now. Oh, you probably don't have that sheet. Let's put my pencils in here. This is the plot plan.
Yeah.
It stands now, so the deck is just this tiny thing. It comes just a bit more than that. So this is just coming out like that, is our thinking. Just whatever normal size kitchen is, that wouldn't look like Conservatory Park on top of this. I want it to feel like it belongs.
Okay.
I think in the past, John has been very good with proportions.
Great.
So I think this project is all about the correct proportions.
Exactly.
So,
Okay.
Great.
But I know before I've heard no dormers and whatnot, so we're okay going down that road.
oh, I
And
believe so. Yeah.
okay, cool. Great. So far, so easy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate your time, guys.
We think it's terrific that you are working with this house, that you are going to make even better use out of it, and we hope that you will be happy members of the historic districts.
Thank you.
Okay?
Well, so far, we've been great.
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
You're welcome.
it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice job.
Okay, we have one more informal.
Yes. And these guys are getting well set up. Ooh. It's the one right on the,
Gretchen,
Oh, sure. I got it, forgot the drum so many times now. Thank you very much.
Access here. Work.
Can't blame me for 66.
Technology will be my friend today.
You know, it takes a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to take another 20 seconds or so. So just a little bit of a preface on what's going on here. This is not a project that we're even making happen yet. My wife and I are looking to buy 16 West Street, which, if you're not familiar, is a tiny little Cape Cod that had some horrific things happen to it in the 60s. And the issue really is the parking. And this is kind of the feasibility question mark. So if it comes up for us here. If I can't do it, then we'll just have to go off of this screen and go from there. But the lot, from what I can see from the records that I have, you can tell me anymore, is 38 feet wide, and the house is about 36 feet wide. So it's a very, very narrow lot. It's one of the smallest that I've seen in Hingham. And the issue is whether or not we can put a driveway in the front. That might be it. Should be in one of the other options. I would think it would be. You don't plug into HDMI, correct? No. Actually, give that a shot because that thing might be. Oh no, I'm just. You have HDMI on your. You can. Yes, I do. Sorry, folks. You probably just want to head on home. Let's see if we can get the HDMI to cooperate with us here. Bingo. Okay, so there's what we have right now. This is from Google Maps. So you can see that the windows here have been basically hacked up by somebody in the 60s. And this roof line up here is something we'll talk about in a little bit. But the idea really is this area right here is what I would be looking at to put a driveway. And this driveway here belongs to this property right next door. So the property line runs about 1.5 feet to the right of this line of retention wall, and it runs about 1.5 feet to the left of this picket fence over here. So what we're really working with is a very narrow space. Currently, the town allows the owner to park over in front of the swamp. I'm not sure if this is even allowed, parking right here, but it looks like in the past, just going back from Google Maps, people have been parking there informally. The idea is to do something more like this. Give me a second here. Of course, I've been looking in the back. Opening up the front and adding a driveway. Now, this is rather extreme. This is just using what I had in my model. I actually went around and changed some of the looks. So, but the simple idea is to make a cut into the bank here, right on the edge of the property line, add some hardscape to give us some lines so that we don't have any issues with erosion or anything like that, and then putting in a two-car driveway. So this would be a 20 by 20 foot spot. So that's just the basics. The actual design I like best is this. Of course, it's going to be way out. Sorry if any of you get vertigo, I apologize. It's not showing up very kindly, but this is known as turf stone, or I think it's turf stone. It's basically a concrete block that has 8 holes in it, so you can see a single unit. So like here, it's laid in as you would just lay in a normal patio. So you grade underneath it, layer of crushed stone, layer of sand, and then you can put this in and then just lay topsoil right over top of it, and grass can grow on it. So it would minimize some of the impact of having
a driveway here, because obviously it would look much more like a lawn, even though it would be operating as a driveway. The one thing I didn't have time to do was kind of draw this out as something different. If you were thinking that would be a better idea to have a different type of wall here, we could certainly look into that. So the question really is this viable? Is this something that would be okay? Because that's really one of the major factors in us even considering purchasing the property. It's a 4-bedroom house at the current situation, and without any parking, it's not something my wife will even let me consider buying. And I'm smart enough to know not to go against that. But looking at the overall property, it does have some potential, but it would be this would be really the big question. Could we do something like this?
You've got some great software depictions
This is free,
here.
actually.
This is like, for not even having purchased the home yet and doing this legwork, this is great for us. It really helps us.
Little background,
Thank you.
I do this for fun.
All right.
But this is a free software. You can get it,
Okay.
anybody can get it.
Okay.
The rest of the equipment's different. So this here, is one option. The other option I had, and I drew up just a quick one here, would be to use cobblestones instead. So you have a similar option here, where you just lay cobblestones in where the wheels would be, so you would have something that would be much harder, and then you just have strips of grass. I personally think the turf stone looks a little nicer. It would eventually look like this. That's an example of what it looks like in action.
Interesting.
So you can see where the cars drive regularly. You have to mow it, because obviously the stuff in between would grow higher. But so you could definitely see where a car would be parked on a regular basis, but in general it would look like a grass spot.
There's not a shared driveway option for you?
None. Everything that I've seen, the lot is rectangular and there's no access to anything in the back. It's built into a hill. You can actually see from my model. So it gives you a basic idea. That back, and this is actually the other option. This is the original. Currently it looks like this in the back, and it just keeps going up. So there's actually 3, if I remember correctly, 3 terraces, and so it just keeps going way up. But it's just this narrow little lot that it's long and skinny. And actually with this model that I've drawn, the lot is narrower than what I have drawn, and there's a house right here. So there's not much room. There's no way to get in from this side because there's a home, and on this side here, their driveway comes back to here, and then it's just deep into the hill. So to get back up in to put something in the back here is not possible. So I don't know. This is really the only option I thought that was viable. The other issue, and we couldn't. I thought maybe go in on this side because there's already a driveway here, but you'll see it on this final model. There's a tree over here, and this was done to minimize the option of taking out a tree. Because I generally would prefer to keep a tree in front of the house if I could. So
this goes down?
This would go, yes, that's correct. It would cut into the hill. Currently, as the hill stands, actually, I just want to go here. There is, this might be a better picture. Yeah, you can see here. So it's kind of a little knob here. And what you can't see, there are actually windows into the basement here and here. For drainage purposes, it would probably make sense to take off about 1.5 feet of that hill and bring it down a little bit, just because so that it would slope away from the home. It does have a full basement in the front, so drainage-wise, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't done that already. But in the process of doing this, if we have the equipment in, we could actually probably bring the hill down, grade it maybe 1 foot to 1.5 feet lower, so that there would be more of a direct grade away from the home rather than having it kind of slope back in at the top. But yes, it would cut in. It would be about a 1 to 6 run. It's a 20-foot deep driveway, and I'm figuring at about almost 3, just a little over 3 feet of drop from the back to the front. It currently is about 6 feet of drop from the back to the front as we stand. And obviously, if we take the top down a little bit, it would be about a 3 feet drop for every, or 3 feet of run for every foot of drop. So the driveway would be sloped, but it wouldn't be super steep.
Have you investigated the option of tandem parking rather than a side-by-side?
It's only the lot itself is only about 26 to 27 feet deep. Okay. So it would be a single. You can only get one car in that front space. Okay.
So to put a single you could do a single in there, but that would basically be a deal breaker as well. For a house of that size, you basically need parking for two. I'm envisioning a young family being in there, there's not much chance of them having just one car. And for them to be parking on the street, this is actually as much for the township plowing snow in the winter. I don't think they would be, in fact, I think that it would be quite a good thing to get the cars off the curb rather than having them parked there.
Do you know what any of the other houses, there's probably a few along the way there, do they all have similar parking challenges?
So I can tell you from Google Maps alone, I'm so used to using my mouse here, this guy here, this next one, 14 West, which if this thing will let me go there, he has this tandem lot, smack on the edge of his lot. He has a tandem spot here. This one here, it just was on the market a few days ago, and we were in it to check it out just to see, because we were visiting this one. They have parking in the back, but the actual lots themselves, you can see here, give me a second, once the map loads. These lots, there's West Street. Here, they don't even have the building in Google Maps because it's that small. But this is the lot we're talking about. So this one here does have access off of Quincy Ave, and they do have a driveway in the top of their property. This one I would assume is the same thing right in there, but this property, no access, so they have the tandem right in this spot. And this one has something there, I think. Actually, that's weird. I'm not sure.
And then the houses across the street probably are similar.
Yes, the house, well, actually, there's only one. It's this one here. They have this driveway right along the edge of the front of their house. The next one over is on there's no other houses because this is a swamp.
And that's where
The parking that the town gave the variance for, from what I can gather, is over here. This kind of raggedy area is where they, I think, approve people to park. But so the swamp is basically right in here, and I think they give you the approval to park here. What we've seen from the real estate agent that we talked to is that basically every new occupant has to apply for that permission, and that's what we're trying to avoid.
So the idea is to be that close to the property line, wouldn't you?
I would think that would be something that, yes, but you'd build that into the lease, into the actual documents then, and it would be permanent. So it wouldn't be something that a new owner would have to get. I did talk to DPW. They don't seem to have any issue with it. As far as grading purposes and that, they didn't anticipate any issues with putting this type of project in on their end.
What do you think about using some natural stone?
On those sides, I actually would like that better. Okay. I just didn't have it in my model. So I think that would look more correct to, it would look more like the dry stacked stone walls that you get around here.
How old is the house?
The house was built in 1794. So it's old. Very low ceilings inside. And that actually leads to the other side of what I would like to do with it. It's a gut job. The whole thing needs torn out. There's dry rot. There's serious issues with the electrical. It's not something that it's a full gut job on the interior of the house. So it's a lot of work.
Is there anything salvageable in there?
No, not really. It's been renovated multiple times. Not from what I've seen. It's old 60s era paneling that's been painted about 17 times. Wow. So we might get lucky and find original, I don't think we'll find original stuff because I think it was renovated sometime in the 1800s, and they took out the central chimney and put the two chimneys on the outside ends. If you look, the floorboards are actually original, but they feel weird. So if I was to do it, I would do everything I could to save them and reuse those. They've been painted, so they would need sanded, and if that's possible to reuse them, absolutely. But the interior of the house is pretty heavily abused. I think really the floorboards might be the only thing that you could salvage from the interior. I don't know about the windows on the, that's not what I want here, on the side. of the street, on the side of the house here. I don't know if, I think those are replacements as well, but obviously these were done in 60, I think it was 67 was on the paperwork I have, that these were done, and I would assume that the windows in the dormers would have been replaced at the same time.
If you've got some old photos of the house and you wanted to restore it, bring it back.
That would be my optimal dream. Like, that would be the right thing to do with it. This house would look, so actually I did draw it up, so I'll show you now.
Wow.
Because I've been having some fun. So this is what I would envision it to look like. Put the mullions back in, get windows that are actually correct, period appropriate. Originally, from what the documents I could find, they said that this house, when it was built, looked like this one down here. Come on, zoom in. Well, it had the appearance of this guy down here. That one. I went a little too far. So everything I find, it looked exactly like this. So I redrew basically based off of that. Obviously the chimney's not going to be able to be changed because there's two chimneys on this one, on 16. I wouldn't necessarily go for the shutters. I think it would, that's not period accurate for the original house. But beyond that, this is kind of what I was going with as far as overall appearance. The big issue is this little jog in the roof. This, I think, was done in that first round of renovations, I would assume somewhere in the mid to late 1800s. And they put that on to do a bunch of stuff in the back, and I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like. Most of this is actually drawn from Google Maps, so I don't have a super accurate dimension stuff, but they have this weird little shed-ish thing that comes over the the stairway. This gives light to the stairway, and then they have this return off the back. I don't know why they put this in. It doesn't make sense to me, but it is what it is. And then they have this return running back. So there's a bedroom here, bedroom there, and there upstairs. There's a bathroom downstairs right here. It's the only bathroom in the house. A fourth bedroom down here, kitchen in the back corner, dining room here, living room in the front corner. So that's the layout of the property currently as it stands. What I would like to do to it would be this. Oh, I don't want that. All right, so the idea would be to continue this straight up, bring this out, like bring my ridge line up to the top again. And then this would allow me to put in a bedroom or a bathroom over here to service the front 3/4 bath in the front side of this. Bump this out 12 feet into this hill because the hill is useless for anything. It's too steep. So if I bring this out 12 feet, that would allow me to put a master suite here. So I'd have a 2 3/4 baths upstairs, keep the full bath downstairs, and you'd have a much more usable home that a family could actually live in. Currently, as it stands, it'd be hard because there's no bedrooms, there's no bathrooms on the second floor, and there's like I said, it's a gut job. It needs a lot of work. So this would be, optimal if it's possible to do. It would be slightly visible from the street, from about 5 or 6 houses down, but that would be it, just from this angle, this viewing angle. So you might see a little bit of this. So that would be something we would obviously have to look at later. But and this wouldn't be the end of the story. If I couldn't do this, I would probably just put a deck out across, which wouldn't be visible. But it would be really helpful to be able to bump that out a little farther. But that would be down the road. Obviously, if the driveway doesn't happen, this is not even a question mark. So.
Significant improvements here with what's there. If you're kind of coming to us looking to do it on the driveway, I think my view would be if you could keep it as using natural components as much as possible.
Sure.
There, I think that would work.
Okay.
Just because you just don't have any other options here.
Right.
So, other input.
Yeah, for me the most important element would be the retaining wall, because that's going to be quite a presentation piece.
Right.
The pervious portion is a nice feature, but that's not wouldn't be a that wouldn't generate a no vote.
Okay.
For me.
So it's
I
really
would be
the
more interested in the retaining wall, right?
So this actually, from what I have here, this, after having realized these windows are here, because when I initially drew this up, I didn't realize the windows were there. The intent would actually be to bring this down a bit. So this would probably come down almost a foot. So it would lose almost all of its impact across the back here. In fact, I could conceivably make the driveway steeper. It wouldn't be as nice, but I could. But you still are going to have these retaining walls, which are going to be, in current layout, about 2.5, almost 3 feet at the highest point in the middle here. But if we pare this down and grade this yard much nicer rather than the kind of that bubbly hump that is there right now, you'd be looking at a significantly smaller retention wall there. So
Right.
it would be a much lower impact appearance.
Good landscape along the edges of it to sort of
Oh, yeah.
soften it as well.
Yeah, and I mean, the other option would be, granted, I couldn't do it on this side because of this is right on the property line. This, we could just grade this whole thing so that it would just be a smooth hill. So this would kind of work out into just kind of a gentle swell, and not even have a retention wall here if that would be more appealing. And that would totally be an option.
I think with this property, obviously, parking is going to be a problem no matter who wants to purchase this, and with the sale of this house. And, it's too bad that you lose a lot of the yard that you don't really have the luxury of having, but I think parking is going to be a problem here. And I think for somebody to be able to purchase this house like yourself, who's obviously put a lot of work into this and you haven't even bought the house yet, I'm sure you'd be a good steward of this property. So I appreciate the level of detail that you put into this, and I think, I think there's a solution here somewhere with that parking.
Sure. And to be honest with you, the front yard, because of the nature of West Street, it's not really super usable because, it's so sloped. I wouldn't want kids playing on it because it's so easy to get right out onto the street there. The backyard does have enough usable space that it would work for kids to play in, so it's not a huge loss in that aspect. And, if it becomes usable space, it actually would make sense.
There's also a lot of traffic along there at certain times of the day.
Yes.
And
It's not really a destination for play.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
no,
a
that's,
busy.
that was another thing my wife's a little worried about. She's like, she doesn't necessarily love that street, but for what it is, I like a challenge, obviously. But this stands out as something that, it clearly needs some help, the property itself. But, to make it viable, we have to be certain that there are options. She's terrified of, buying a property and then not being able to, have options, because if a driveway's not there, resale would not be even remotely possible.
What do you guys think about just regrading the whole front, just leveling it all out down to where he has right here, and then just kind of terrace up to the house itself a little bit with some garden, shrubs and that sort of thing, so it's not, you don't have so much retaining wall on each side.
That would be completely feasible. And putting that, if you did something like that where you went the whole way across the entire lot, you still would need the retention wall here unless the neighbor bought into the idea, but you could do that. Because there are windows on this side, it actually probably would be helpful to do that. That would make a lot of sense.
And maybe do it on one side.
The only thing I would anticipate is, and I don't think it should be an issue, is where the roots of this tree are. I think this is low enough and far enough away that you wouldn't be damaging it if you dug into this little knob. That would be my only concern, but I don't think that would be a problem. It would be nice. I mean, we would then run into the neighbor's parking lot, this thing right here.
Yeah.
So we would probably
shave
have
that
to
down.
work with him to, get that,
Yep.
take that back, but I think that would be doable.
Just a thought.
So, yeah, I mean, that's really the question I have, is if you don't anticipate it being an issue for us to put a lot in big enough to park 2 cars, then we can move forward. So.
Straw?
Yeah.
I'm in favor. I'm in favor.
Okay.
I think it's a, I think it's an unfortunate solution, but I see it as the only fortunate solution.
Yeah.
Frankly, for the house, and given your vision for the house, it's worth, I think, somebody like yourself having the property to do it. And I would be probably most in favor of as soft an issue for parking 2 cars and as natural, things. Some of what you've shown is somewhat stark and I think modern, and I appreciate the solutions, but I think it could be softened for the age of the house.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think what you would propose to do could save the house.
Right.
Because other people would let it just go forward in that unappealing fashion.
Yeah, I mean, there's the options would be, if you can't change what you have now, I don't see you having a buyer that's willing to do anything to it.
Right.
But I totally agree. And really what you see here is the ultra-modern stuff is because of the limitations of my software.
Sure.
I wasn't able to put in fieldstone walls, or I would have.
I'm in favor too, something that's more natural stonework. I think will highlight this house.
Okay.
So I think that'll work, and whether it's one side or both sides, which is graded, I think we can figure something out and work with you on that.
Okay, great.
I'd support it as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
You don't have a lot of options.
Well, no, not really. So now the next question is the seller gonna actually sell it to me? So we'll have to figure that out. But this, I needed to put some legwork in to calm some other people's nerves first. So thank you for your time. I really
good for
appreciate
you.
it.
That was
And I
excellent.
hope we'll be working more in the future, because there's a lot to look at with this one. It does have some options, and obviously there'd be more to talk about in the back of the house, but that's putting the cart before the horse. So, but yeah.
Where would the cart park?
That's a very good question. I don't think we have a place for a cart or a horse. Definitely not a horse. All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Great.
That's not his.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's. Is that Gretchen's?
First one, yes.
Okay. Any other business for? Do you want to? The minutes. You want to?
Minutes.
Yeah. What's If everybody can take just a couple minutes for the minutes.
I'll turn the lights back.
I've got Gretchen's handout. She might be.
Oh, okay. Maybe we can just...
I was present.
Yes.
I was.
I said he wasn't, but he was.
I was absent of voting, but I was otherwise here.
Okie dokie. Like, thanks a lot for helping with that. That was really, I don't think we would have gotten it going without you.
One change on 240 Main Street.
Wait a
Andrea?
minute, I got it. 240 Main Street.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Fourth line down.
1, 2, 3, 4, got it.
Saying that because just. how
Oh,
about
yeah,
just,
obviously I was getting brain dead by the time I was done. So I have to fix that sentence.
Yeah, saying that because it will be so close to the property line.
Yeah.
I guess just get rid of because it, saying that it will be so close to the property.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
And on 207 Main, the decision line, the first line, just typo on, it says 2017 instead of 207. Which is easy to understand. And then next line down, a business sign.
Oh, yes,
DA,
thank
it looks
you.
like you're trying to make a capital there. Okay.
Haste makes waste. That's what my mother always used to say.
Well, sometimes spell check is your enemy there, too.
Yeah, sometimes spell check. I did spell check it, I think.
Yeah, it tells you what you don't want.
Yeah.
Question. 6 Station Street. So
Yes.
10,000, 35 foot 6 inches high and 10,000 square feet. So 10,000 is that's the right.
That's,
is the-
you know what, I think that's the lot size.
Yeah. I
was gonna say,
That's
that
not
seems like a
the,
lot.
okay,
Maybe just clarifying that.
Yep.
Whatever the actual, or if it's 10,000 square foot.
no, I think it's the
footprint or
lot
something,
size.
yeah. Okay.
Or you just want to clarify the height? Agree that
That, I think, is correct. The 35,
well, you just say the height of 35.6 inches on a.
oh, sure.
On a, combined with a 10,000 square foot footprint or something like that.
Absolutely.
It was too great for the site.
I'm all over it.
Anything else? Make a
My
motion?
motion?
Yep, you want to? Go.
And make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of,
Thursday, September 14th.
thank you, Thursday, September 14th, with the changes as articulated.
Thank you.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Any other business for this evening, Andrea? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to conclude the Historic District's meeting for Thursday, November
November.
16th, 2017.
Second.
Great.
So.
Meeting adjourned.